Hola, 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 y buenas tardes. It's me, Miss Kakamo, and I am here with a final video for you on the preterite versus imperfect. Now, before anything, I want to preface this video by letting you know that preterite and imperfect tenses are very tricky. It is a concept that I did not fully understand until I was in college, okay? And I'll be honest, sometimes native speakers still struggle with it and don't always use it correctly. I could probably spend an entire year teaching you preterite versus imperfect, but with the way the curriculum is designed, there's only a certain amount of time that I have to teach it to you. So my goal for you is to not understand this 100%. We don't need to aim for perfection here, but what I do want to aim for is for you to have a pretty good understanding of preterite and imperfect and situations in which we use either one. Okay. Now, in the past, specifically in Module 8A, I provided you with a reference PDF of when to use preterite and imperfect. We're going to kind of utilize that today as like a guideline for doing this last and final note video. And then following this, you have a quiz on preterite versus imperfect. I want to let you know that you may utilize this note page as well as the reference packet I provided in Module 8A while you work on that quiz through Google Classroom, which is a Google form. Okay. Also, please know that I will require you to show me a picture of this as a participation grade, and you can just simply take a clear image, a clear picture of this when we are done, and you can upload it to the assignment in Google Classroom and submit it that way to me so I can give you your credit for completing it. Okay. So I'm going to keep this as short and sweet as I possibly can. We're going to start off by labeling this page past tenses because the preterite and the imperfect are past tenses in Spanish language. So after I label it, I'm going to just do a little quick divide here, okay? And we're going to label this side over here the preterite tense. Please note that I've seen preterite tense spelled with an E and also without an E, so keep that in mind. And also the imperfect tense, okay? Preterite and imperfect. And the first order of business for each one of these, I'm going to kind of go side by side, is how they translate into English. That is extremely important to know because if you are writing or trying to speak, you want to know which one to use, okay? And you're at the point in Spanish where you are still thinking in English first, of course, okay? So when you are thinking of your sentence in English first, before you put it into Spanish, you really want to identify how the verb is worded in order to figure out which one to use for the most part. Preterite tense, make sure you're jotting this down, is comparable to your ed ending. I know I've said that lots of times, so here's the last time I'll say it. Preterite tense, I'm kidding, it won't be like the last time I say it. I'll probably have to say it a few more times, but that's okay. Preterite tense is your ed. So for example, walked, talked. Jot these down, okay? Also, keep in mind, some verbs in English are irregular, so they don't have ed. I wouldn't say run, I would say ran. I want to say swimmed, I would say swam. Okay. So we have to know our endings, which we should know by now because we've been practicing them since the beginning of the year. Our AR endings, of course, put them down here as well. Aste, o, amos, astais, aron. Those are your AR endings for preterite tense. And we know our ER and IR luckily get the same set of endings for ER and IR. And they go like this: iste, io, imos, estáis, and ieron. Okay? Please take note of the fact that there are accents over the A and O in AR, and E and EO in ER and IR. Okay? Next order of business, please label situations. Okay, situations. So I want to provide you with a few of the, I don't want to say most popular, but a few of the more prominent situations in which we would use the preterite tense. Folks, there are so many situations in which we would use the preterite tense, but I'm going to give you the heavy hitters right now, okay? So for starters, we use the preterite tense if we are talking about a specific action completed in the past. After school, I walked to the store. Okay. Another situation in which we would use the preterite tense is if the action interrupts something that was going on. So I'm going to write down interrupting action. And guess what? More times than not, it's interrupting an imperfect activity. I was walking when I tripped. Okay, tripped would be preterite tense. The tripped interrupt me walking. That's what we call interrupting action. Next example here, and of course there are so many, if we are talking about the day or date, in the past tense we use the preterite tense. We also use the preterite tense when we are talking about something that we did not do. Something that was not done / didn't happen. So I don't know about you guys, but I used to always get nagged by my mom when I was younger, and she'd say, Gina, did you do the dishes? And I would say, no, I did not do the dishes. Didn't happen. I did not. Okay. My mom used to ask me, hey, did you finish your homework? Nope, my homework wasn't done. I didn't finish it. I did not do my homework. Okay. Which is a fib because I always did my homework. And the last one that I really want to talk about with you folks today is the beginning. Like, we use preterite tense to talk about like the beginning or end of an action. So if I wanted to word this, I would write down marking beginning or end of an action. Okay. I started to play guitar when I was 13. I stopped dancing when I was 11. All right. So these are the heavy hitters, I should say, and we'll just jot down a few terms that trigger the preterite tense. So some phrases that I call them trigger words or hints, phrases that are hints to determine whether I'd use one or the other. First one is ayer, which means yesterday. Okay, it's giving you a specific time of when it happened, so it's going to be preterite tense. Another good example might be anoche, last night. Okay, and I'll give one more here because on our reference pages that I provided before, and I'll post them again for this activity, there is on the third page, I believe we've got a whole list of trigger phrases. So one more that I'll add here would be el año pasado. And that means last year. Okay? All right, so moving on, we have the imperfect tense over here, and the imperfect tense is a little bit trickier in that it can have two different translations into English. The first translation it can have is was or were, ing. Okay? Was walking, were dancing. Okay? ing, was and were. And the other transition it can have is used to blank. Used to swim. Used to play. Okay, so those are the two translations into English. Okay, keep in mind, yes, this is an ed ending right here, but this is not the verb itself. This is the verb that we focus on. The used to is just kind of translated right into the ending. So for example, we see an ed, we think, oh, maybe that's preterite. It's not, okay, because we're not using the verb to use. It'd be different if I said, I used the pen to write in my notebook. That's preterite tense, okay? But this we're saying that an action used to happen over and over. I used to swim, used to dance, used to play, used to watch TV. Okay, that's going to be imperfect. And the used to, you don't have to even transit that because it just comes along with the ending. Okay, so we've got an AR ending here for the imperfect. Okay, and that's Abba, Abbas, Abba, Abamos, accent over the A, Abais, and Aban. And again, these are nothing new. We've done these for a while now. Then we've got ER and IR. Again, they have the same set of endings. And those are ia, ias, ia, iamos, ias, like Sophia. Only Sophia is not a verb. Sophia is a name. Iais and ian. There's my friend Sophia in the back there. And lastly, for this particular set here, I want to give you some examples of situations in which you would use the imperfect tense. Okay, so we would use imperfect tense if we are talking about habitual actions. Habitual just means they happened a lot. They weren't just a one-time thing. Habitual or recurring actions. We also use, that's supposed to be a star, we also use the imperfect tense when we talk about the time it was, telling time in the past. Another example in which we would use the imperfect is if we are setting the scene of a story. It was late, it was dark, it was windy, my dad was cooking dinner, my mom was watching TV, I was doing my homework. You're just giving details, right? Let's give that word here. I love that word, details, if we're giving details about something that was happening in the past. We also use the imperfect tense when we're describing the weather. So weather in the past. Last month was really cold. Okay. It was raining. It was humid. Things like that. Okay. Another example, there are a lot for the imperfect, but I'm going to give you a couple more. We use imperfect to describe physical or personality traits, and of course, again, past. So, for example, when I was in 8th grade, I was really shy. Or when my mom was young, she had really dark hair. So that would also be imperfect. And we can also include in here too emotions. That kind of falls under the same umbrella. Physical, personality, emotions, characteristics. Okay. And lastly, I think that's really all actually that I wanted to talk about for this one. So we're going to keep it with that. And I'm going to give you now just a couple trigger phrases down here. One of those might be siempre. Siempre means always. So when you use the word siempre, that's a kind of a trigger phrase here to say something happened more than once, not just a one-time thing over and done like preterite. I always used to wear pink scrunchies in my hair. Okay, that would be imperfect. Or I always used to watch cartoons Saturday mornings. So always, siempre, is a trigger word for imperfect. Another good example would be muchas veces, which means a lot of times. Okay, I'll give you 2 more examples here. Another good one might be nunca, kind of the opposite as siempre. I never used to swim in the deep end. Okay. And another last one here I'll leave you with is todos los días. That means every day or all the days. Literally means all the days. In other words, every day. Okay. So I'm going to take about maybe 1 or 2 minutes and do some examples with you here. You can go to the back side of this if you want, or you can go to a new page. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to flip to a new page here. I'm going to give you 2 examples with the preterite tense. Okay, so here let's do yesterday. I watched TV for 2 hours. Okay, so let's look at that. Yesterday, I watched TV for 2 hours. We can tell it's preterite because, one, we know the exact time of when it happened, over and done with, yesterday. Okay, also we can tell there's an ed ending here. And also we have the time frame of when it happened. So we know it happened only for 2 hours yesterday. It's over and done. It's a completed action. So if I were to go ahead and translate that, I would start with ayer, which means yesterday. Yo. I'll use mirar for this one. So miré televisión por 2 horas. And I do want to have these in your notes as well. So make sure you include these in your pictures to me. We'll do one more for preterite tense. Let's say she lived in a house for 10 years. Okay. She lived in a house for 10 years. So we don't really have a trigger phrase here, but we can look at this 10 years as an example because that is the time frame of when it happened. Also, we can look at the ed on lived. Okay. And that would be ella. To live is vivir. So the correct ending would be for she, ir verb, yo. Ella vivió en una casa por 10 años. Okay. Imperfect. Let's do she was dancing at the party. Okay. We don't have an exact time frame of when she was dancing. We know she was at the party, but we don't really know for like how long she was. We wouldn't say, oh, she danced to 2 songs and then got off the dance floor. So this is very general. And we can tell because of the was and the ing that it's imperfect. So that would be ella bailaba. At the party, we could say a la fiesta or en la fiesta. Okay, bailar, to dance. Bailaba, because for she. Aba. Okay. All right, we'll do another one here. Then I'm going to show you an example of having a couple of these, both of these in the same sentence. So for número 2, let's say we used to run in the park. We used to run in the park. Nosotros. Keep in mind, we do not have to translate used to. We look at the verb to run, and that's the verb that we're going to put in the imperfect tense. The verb to run is correr, er verb, and it's we. Corríamos. Nosotros corríamos en el parque. Okay. And I want to show you one last thing. When we have multiple in the same sentence, you can have 2 preterites in the same sentence. You can have 2 imperfects. You can have a preterite and imperfect. So we're going to do 3 more examples together, then we'll sign off. We are going to just label this 2 preterites. Okay. They ate chicken and I ate steak. Okay. Now, we don't see an ed ending here, but that's because we don't say eated. We say ate. So that means just the verb is irregular in English, okay? These are both over and done with. We can tell ate, right? Past tense, over and done with. Okay, it's a specific action. So these are both going to be preterites. So I would start by saying ellos. Okay. And the verb to eat is comer. We're in a preterite tense. And it's ellos form. ER verb, comieron. Ellos comieron pollo and yo, again, comer, ER verb, yo form, preterite tense, comí, accent, beefsteak. Okay. Now we'll do an example of two imperfects, rather. Two imperfects. So, when you have two imperfects, you may see the word mientras. This is a gray word to jot down. Please write it down. I'll say it again. Mientras. And that means while or as. Okay? So we know imperfect can have two different translations. Was or were ing or used to blank. We usually use as, and if there are more than one imperfects in a sentence, you may see it in this situation. Okay, they were walking and while I was dancing. So just take note of that word mientras. Okay, so the example that we'll do is you, informal, were studying while I was playing. You were studying while I was playing. Okay. You were studying. We see the was or were. We see the ing, imperfect. So, two. Our verb to study is estudiar in the to form. Estudiabas. Our word for while is mientras. I was playing. Well, our verb to play is jugar. We've got I is yo. And our verb to play is jugar. We have to conjugate it. Jugar, AR verb, yo form, jugaba. Tú estudiabas mientras yo jugaba. Okay. Now, when you see a preterite and imperfect in the same sentence, that is when the preterite acts as the interrupter, right? We had written that down. An interrupting action. So we're going to say something was happening when... There goes my phone. Remember, something was happening when something else happened and interrupted it. Was happening, happened, and interrupted. Okay, sorry that my phone dropped, folks. So let's do an example here. I was walking. Now, we see the word cuando here a lot, when, because something was happening when something interrupted. I was walking when I saw a snake. Random sentence. That's okay. I was walking when I saw a snake. Which one is the imperfect? Was walking. Which one is the preterite? The saw. Okay. So yo was walking. Imperfect tense. The verb to walk is caminar. Okay. AR verb, yo form. Caminaba. Yo caminaba. Our word when is cuando. Let's just jot that down over here as well. Cuando I saw. Well, in this case, we're going to use the verb to see, which is ver, V-E-R, and it's irregular in the preterite tense. Vi. Un serpiente. I was walking when I saw a snake. Okay? So, folks, I want to see some clear images of these notes that you take attached to this assignment. And you may also use, again, the reference pages that are attached to 8A. I'm going to try to put them on this one as well. Just for a little hint, they look like this. Okay, so they should be on Module 8A, but I will try to attach them to this one as well. So if you can't find them anywhere, they are definitely with Module 8A. Okay, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for your time. And after these notes, go ahead and move on right to the quiz. Adios.